Welcome, adventurers, to Rook's Tavern. Today we're going to be talking about the War Within. But before we get to the War Within, we've got to talk about the pre-patch. And that sword. So, since people are hearing calls by the Heart of Azeroth, everybody thinks, and are being led to Slithis, I think it's pretty likely that our pre-patch is going to take place in Slithis. I think what's going to happen is we're going to show up and we're going to find Rubians either in and around Slithis or underground in Slithis. I'd love to see a dungeon or a subzone added to Slithis underground around the ruins of Encourage. Where the Slithid, sorry, not the Slithid, the Nerubians, are gathering the blood of old gods, specifically in this case Cthulhu. Since we took him out all the way back in vanilla. And in the What Comes Next panel, they talked about the fact that the Nerubians are gathering the blood of the old gods. So the fact that we're being called to Slithis and Cthulhu's body is there, I wouldn't be surprised if we find the Nerubians harvesting his blood. Now, what form that blood's going to take, I'm a little curious to find out. Since we know that Yogg-Saron's blood crystallized into Saronite in Northrend. So are we going to be seeing liquid blood that they're harvesting, or are they going to be harvesting some form of crystallized hard blood, kind of like Saronite? Speaking of which, I want to know what happens when the blood of an old god mixes with Azerite. Or has it already mixed with Azerite? Given that the blood of Azeroth in its liquid form is a shimmering gold and blue, WoW very often color codes things, and gold is frequently used for holy or order, and that would make sense if Azeroth is a nascent titan or has been ordered as a titan. But where's the blue come in? Well, the blood of Yogg-Saron is blue, Saronite is blue. So is that why Azerite is blue and gold? Has the blood of Azeroth already mingled with the blood of the old gods? They both solidify when they're exposed to air. I don't know. Could be interesting. We'll have to find out. I think how we get from the pre-patch over to the Isle of Dorn for the expansion is either going to be we're going to find orders for the Nerubians on some of the Nerubians that we defeat, or somebody like Illyria and her visions are going to lead us there because she's getting visions of Xal'atath, and Xal'atath is likely in Azj-Kahet with the Queen of the Nerubians. So we could very easily be led there by her. But that's going to take us to our first zone in the War Within, which is Dornegal. If I can get my mouse to work for me. So we're going to be going to the Isle of Dorn. The first zone that we're going to be encountering is Dornegal. Or actually, the capital city is Dornegal. The first zone is the Isle of Dorn. In the What Comes Next talk, they said there's going to be three main groups of Earthen there: the Oathsworn, the Unbound, and the Machine Speakers. The Oathsworn are those who still follow the edicts of the Titans, and they guard the Titan Causeway, which leads to the center of Azeroth, and that Titan Causeway is located in Dornegal, the capital. The Unbound used to provide the supplies to run the Titan machines, and the machine speakers were those tasked with keeping the machines running. They also said that the Earthen are unable to make more of themselves. So I think one of the first things we're probably going to be doing is helping those Unbound retake their quarries and resource points. In the What Comes Next panel, they said that the Unbound occasionally deal with hostile creatures, and I think that translates to we're going to kill some of the local wildlife like we always do. And then they also said some of the sites where the Unbound used to work have become lairs of other creatures. Again, I think we're going to help them reclaim their work sites. And then I think we're going to help the machine speakers retake their forges and their work areas. And I think that's going to be what allows us to make more earthen, and that's what unlocks the allied race of... I totally can't think right now. Of the earthen allied race. Also, they mentioned that the Unbound... sorry, not the Unbound. The Oathsworn can sometimes earn the respect of the Storm Griffins and be chosen as a Storm Griffin Grider and become a guardian of the city, the island. I fully expect that's going to be a quest chain to help one of them earn the respect of the Griffins and become a guardian, or we're going to be able to do that and get him out. Below the Isle of Dorn and Dornegal, our first zone is going to be the Ringing Deeps, which is where the machine speakers typically live and work. As their numbers have been dwindling, kobolds have taken over some of their areas, some of their forges and such, and we're going to help push those kobolds back, retake those. Like I said, I think that's going to be part of earning their trust and getting the Earthen to be on our side and be an allied race. Below the Ringing Deeps, we have Hollowfall. Now, this is one of the ones that's most interesting to me and got my interest most piqued. So, there was a lore book added to the game in one of the recent patches that talks about Earthen being sent to a sector to research a fissure. And it says, if you want further information, look under geological anomalies. It also goes on to talk about how those Earthen came to resemble the dwarves, but they didn't succumb to the curse of flesh because they remained stone. And it says, is that perhaps the effect of the fissure? Now, I think that fissure is the crystal, because it's definitely a geological anomaly. But also, if we... I find my picture here. Nope, not there. Yeah, here we are. So here's an in-game shot of the crystal. And to me, I don't know, looking at this picture, it reminds me a lot of one of the dimensional ships like Tempest Keep, or it reminds me a bit of Oshugun in Outland, which was a dimensional ship bearing a Naru. I just get that vibe from this crystal. But looking at the surface of the cavern, it looks like it's cracked. And to me, either that crystal or dimensional ship crashed and it's protruding through the surface of the cavern. But it's pretty deep underground, so I'm not sure on that. My other theory is this reminds me a lot of the cracking of the sky in Northrend. And I'm wondering if the fissure that's referenced is in fact a fissure between our realm and the realm of light. And this is a Naru or a dimensional ship or something that is protruding through that fissure. And if that's the case, this is going to be bleeding a massive amount of light energy, and that could perhaps account for why the Earthen didn't succumb to the Curse of Flesh. Because the Curse of Flesh was from Yogg-Saron and void in nature. And void and light being opposed, it could have prevented them from succumbing to the Curse of Flesh insofar as they didn't turn from stone to flesh, but they still were affected by it, and that's why they became like the dwarves. That's just my crackpot theory. The other big thing in Hollowfall is we are encountering the Arathi. And specifically, their capital in Hollowfall is called Marildar. Marildar was the sister of General Lordain, who was one of the first leaders of the Arathi forces in Eastern Kingdoms. She was also the first human to be contacted by the Naru. She began to have visions of 5 beings, and they taught her about the light. She was the first human to wield the light, and she went on to found the Church of the Holy Light, basically. So one of the things they talked about in the What Comes Next is that the Arathi have recently arrived here under mysterious circumstances. But then they also said that in recent years, the crystal has started turning to shadow. So that tells me the crystal's been here a long time. If the crystal is the geological anomaly spoken of in the lore book, that means it's been here a very long time, because the Titan Watchers were the ones who dispatched the Earthen to keep an eye on it. And I'm wondering if the Naru inside the crystal is, or potentially multiple Naru inside the crystal, were what reached out to Marildar. And after her time in the Troll Wars, after her time founding the Holy Church, did she lead a group here to find it? Now that would have put them here for quite a while, which I feel like, looking at their architecture, this has been well established. This was not built within a few years. But arriving under mysterious circumstances, I don't know. Maybe the Naru took her and some of her followers, and they were part of the Army of the Light. And then the Naru recently used this dimensional ship to bring them to this cavern to fight the Void. I don't know. Obviously, with Xalatath allying with the Nerubians in Azj-Kahet, there's going to have been a big influx of void energy in that area. That would have gotten the attention of the Naru. I don't know. What we do know is the What's Next panel said that The Arathi are worshippers of the Holy Light. They use Holy Fire, and they are fighting back the Nerubians and also fighting back monsters that emerge from this giant underground sea. Um, one other comment I have on this though is this is probably their main chapel, and I can't help but be reminded of the Scarlet Cathedral. The colors, the architecture, to me it's very similar. Also, this is their symbol. And this bottom half of the symbol right here, to me looks very much like the bottom half of this symbol. Thank you. And I don't know, just interesting similarities. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. Totally derailed. Okay. That's it for Hollowfall. And that, last but not least, is Azj-Kahet, which is home of the Nerubians. In the War with it, in the What Comes Next panel, they talked about us being able to use pheromones to wander around the city. This reminds me a lot of what we were able to do with Suramar and the mask that changed our appearance that allowed us to infiltrate the city. I would expect some similar kind of quests, exploration, things like that. They talked about how the Nerubians are gathering the black blood of the old gods at the center of the city. And that Nerebar Palace is going to be our first raid. 8-boss raid, and at the end we'll defeat the queen of the Nerubians. Which then raises the question of what are we doing for the rest of the expansion? Perhaps we could be dealing with the Naru that's inside the crystal that's causing it to go dark occasionally. That would definitely tie in with the War of Light and Shadow that's coming in the next expansion, Midnight. And yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And what is Xal'atath up to? Why is she gathering the blood? Are they using the blood for the dark transmutation that is empowering the Nerubians? Does Xal'atath want to use it to awaken an old god, reawaken an old god, rebirth an old god? Does she want to use it to empower herself? I'm not sure. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on what's coming up in War Within. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm most excited to see what's going on with the Crystal and the Arathi. Also, it will be interesting to see if the Arathi leave after this expansion and come with us. Because in Midnight, we're going to Quel'Thalas, and the lands surrounding Quel'Thalas were the Arathi's lands originally. And they might want to retake some of them. Like Stratham or the Plaguelands used to be their territory. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, that's all I have for today. So I hope you join me next time. Thanks.